Going to have veto power?
You know, I've had a number of discussions with my African colleagues who put this kind of take it or leave it position on the table. We get 2 seats and we get the veto. And the reason we want the veto is because you have it. Mm-hmm. But the reason we hate the veto is because it makes the council dysfunctional. We don't want to give up our veto power. And we do think if we expand that veto power across the board, it will make the council more dysfunctional.
You're simply suggesting that the addition of 2 African countries is going to make the process dysfunctional. What an insult. If this particular situation, we're talking a country like Germany, if we're talking any of the other European countries joining as members of the UN Security Council with veto power, would she still find it as a move that will introduce dysfunction? Or is it the introduction of 2 Black African countries that is problematic? What really makes it very sad is that the voices are coming out of the mouth of a Black woman. Those words are coming out of the mouth of an African American who.
Mama, don't be sad that the voices are coming from an African American or a Black woman. Remember what Omowale Malcolm X once said.
I have to say this, and I'll sit down. Back during slavery, when Black people like me talked to the slaves, they didn't kill him. They'd send some old house Negro along behind him to undo what he said. You have to read the history of slavery to understand this. There were 2 kinds of Negroes. There was that old house Negro and the field Negro. And the house Negro always looked out for his master. When the field Negroes got too much out of line, he held them back in check. He put them back on the plantation. The house Negro could afford to do that because he lived better than the field Negro. He ate better, he dressed better, and he lived in a better house. He lived right up next to his master in the attic or the basement. He ate the same food his master ate and wore his same clothes. And he could talk just like his master. Good diction. And he loved his master more than his master loved himself. That's why he didn't want his master hurt. If the master got sick, he'd say, "What's the matter, boss? We sick?" He was as sick as the master. When the master's house caught a fire, he'd try and put the fire out. He didn't want his master's house burned. He never wanted his master's property threatened. And he was more defensive of it than the master was. That was the house Negro. But then you had some field Negroes who lived in huts, had nothing to lose. They wore the worst kind of clothes. They ate the worst food. And they caught hell. They felt the sting of the lash. They hated their master. Oh, yes, they did. If the master got sick, they prayed that the master died. If the master's house caught a fire, they prayed for a strong wind to come along. This was the difference between the 2. And today you still have house Negroes and field Negroes. Yeah.
Yes, that was the voice of Malcolm X 60 years ago. We still have those people today, and they are still using them against our continent or our race as we speak today. So when you hear a Black woman saying giving Africa a veto power will make the United Nations dysfunctional, or the veto power dysfunctional. What is dysfunctionality about Africa having a veto power? What is dysfunction about Africa having a veto power? Is it because it is Africa? Just as Mama was asking. If it was to be Germany, will you say that? If it was to be any other European country, will they say that? No, but because it is Africa. But the reality is that why do we even entertain this at the first place? Why are we entertaining it? When they came out and said that the African Union should have come out and outrightly said, we don't need it. Finish. We don't want it. Publicly. Let them know that we are not their children. They cannot decide when they want us to have a veto power or when not to have it. Who are they to have a veto power that we don't deserve it. What are you using your veto power for? What good have you people used your veto power for? Has America ever used their veto power for something good? No. Russia, same thing. Britain, same thing. All of you having veto powers, what have you used it for the good of the world? As we can see, there are conflicts all over the world. People are being unalive all over the world. How many of you have been able to use your veto power to stop wars in the world? Have you able to use your veto power to stop the war between Russia and NATO, the so-called Russia and Ukraine war? Have you able to use your veto power to stop what is happening in the Middle East, in Africa? So what is going to be dysfunctional about giving us as African people a veto power? So as we said it before here in One African Mission, the only thing we can do is to reject it. We don't want no America supporting us to have, because America is not doing this because of the interests of Africa. America is doing this to counter China and Russia. And as they are saying, they are not hiding it from us. They are doing this not because of Africa. That is why they don't want to give us a veto power. And why must we sit down for them to decide when they will give us a veto power? Just as Malcolm once said, you don't let your oppressor decide when you should have your freedom. Freedom is taken. Freedom is not given. Because if your oppressor gives you freedom, he equally have the right to take it back. And that is exactly what has happened to us as African people. Because these people once decided that they were going to give us our freedom. So anytime they want, they will take it. That is the arrogance that you will see the president of France saying, I will not let the Sahel go, because he still feel that I gave you freedom, so I can take it back. But this is the time for Africans to stand up as men and women and let these colonial criminals know that enough is enough. You cannot decide when we will have veto power or when we will not have it. And talking about dysfunctionality, if you will not give us that, then take it, have it, because giving us 2 permanent seats is only going to cause more chaos in Africa. Which country is going to hold what? If you claim that the African Union will hold 1 seat and the other seat will be rotating, then these people are just that they want to do. It's just confusion after confusion. Because how do you give us 2 permanent seats? Why not give us 1 permanent seat with a veto power, so that we can also have a say? Just as Mama was saying, you cannot invite us to the table and expect us to sit down without eating, watching you eating.
Because maybe an addition of 2 African countries might straighten it up and create some normalcy, and for a change have an entity that's going to truly represent people of the world. As it is right now, it is a relationship, it is an entity that was designed to steal from the developing nations. It is an entity whose entire purpose and plan and reason for being created was to steal from developing nations. So let's be clear. If we are going to speak truth to power, the UN Security Council has been dysfunctional, remains dysfunctional, until it is an entity that truly represents the whole world. At this point, the UN Security Council does not represent the world. So yes, they should be ashamed. It is a dysfunctional entity that may be...
But that is exactly the scenario they want to create. They want to create a scenario that will show that America wants help Africa to have a 2 permanent seats at the United Nations, so that America can still use it to their advantage. But we don't want that, and we will not take that. It is either a veto power coming with those 2 permanent seats or nothing else. I thank you very much for coming around. But let me know your thought as to, do you think Africa should take the 2 permanent seats without a veto power,